Here's what nobody tells you about losing your prayer life. It doesn't announce itself. There's no moment where you decide you're done. No dramatic falling away, no loud rebellion. It disappears quietly. 5 missed minutes become 5 missed days. Days become weeks. And one morning, you realize God has drifted from someone you speak with into someone you only think about when things fall apart. And the terrifying part? You barely noticed it happening. Now, before you assume this is about guilt, stay with me. Because what I'm about to show you is not a lecture. It's a story. And it belongs to a man who faced something most of us never will. He was surrounded on every side by a system designed to reshape his mind, absorb his attention, and quietly erase his identity. And somehow, he prayed 3 times a day, every single day, without breaking once. His name was Daniel, and what he understood about prayer might be the most important thing you hear this year. Babylon was not a backward place. It was brilliant, advanced, sophisticated. It had music, architecture, science, literature, philosophy. And the moment Daniel arrived, the empire immediately began feeding him all of it, intentionally. Because Babylon understood something that modern culture has quietly rediscovered. If you control someone's attention long enough, you eventually reshape their identity. Now, flash forward, not thousands of years, but to this morning. Your phone, your feed, your inbox, the news, the notifications, the content that starts before you've even gotten out of bed. Different empire, same strategy. Daniel became so exceptional inside Babylon that he rose to the highest levels of power. By any modern standard, he was thriving. And that's precisely when prayer should have slowly disappeared. Because success is the quietest killer of spiritual depth. When life is working, the urgency to pray fades. When you're capable, dependence feels unnecessary. When the system is rewarding you, why disrupt it? But something about Daniel didn't bend. And this is where the story cracks open something most people miss. Daniel didn't build discipline when the lions were announced. He had built it long before, in all the ordinary, unremarkable days when nothing was at stake. The crisis didn't create his consistency. It simply revealed it. The habits you build before pressure arrive are the only ones you can actually fall back on when pressure does. Now let me hold a mirror up, and I want you to actually look into it. You are not living in ancient Babylon, but the mechanism is the same. Modern Babylon is not an empire. It's a system. Infinite scrolling, constant notifications, always-on entertainment, productivity culture that glorifies busyness and quietly mocks stillness. A world where silence feels strange, and 5 uninterrupted minutes feels like a luxury. Most people aren't too busy to pray. They're too mentally scattered to be still. And there's a difference, a significant one. Because prayer doesn't require time alone. It requires attention. And attention is the one thing modern culture is engineered to consume before you even realize it's gone. That's why so many people can sit down to pray, and within 60 seconds, the mind is already somewhere else. Replaying a conversation, planning tomorrow, reaching, almost physically, for the phone. You haven't lost your faith. You've lost your focus. And this brings us to something Daniel did that we've never fully unpacked. Something hiding in plain sight. He prayed with his windows open, toward Jerusalem. God didn't need the window, Daniel did. Because the open window was Daniel's way of saying, I will not hide my dependence on God inside a culture that rewards self-sufficiency. I will not let Babylon slowly make God invisible in my life. It was a visible anchor, a daily, physical declaration. Not for the world, for himself. So what does this actually look like in practice? Not as a theory, not as inspiration, as a real, livable shift. Daniel's life, quietly, without ever being preachy about it, reveals 5 habits that kept him spiritually alive inside the most demanding system in the ancient world. And I'll tell you now, The first one will feel obvious, but the last one may completely reframe how you think about prayer forever. Stop waiting to feel spiritual. Most people treat prayer like a mood, and because of that, it becomes hostage to emotion. Tired? Postpone. Distracted? Postpone. Uninspired? Definitely postpone. But notice what the text says about Daniel. He prayed 3 times a day, not when the moment felt right, not when he was moved. Rhythmically, structurally, like breathing. Rhythm removes the pressure of emotion. Because if your prayer life rises and falls with how you feel, it will never survive a difficult season. Feelings are temporary. Rhythms endure. The most spiritually grounded people aren't the most emotional, they're the most intentional. But intention alone isn't enough, because there's a second habit. And this is where modern life gets quietly dangerous. Remove friction between you and prayer. Think about this honestly. Your phone is within reach. Entertainment is 1 tap away. Scrolling requires 0 effort. Everything designed to pull your attention is engineered for instant access. But prayer? For most people, it sits behind a layer of mental resistance. No specific place, no specific time, no trigger to begin. And whatever has the least friction wins your attention. Every time. So make prayer easier to enter than distraction. Choose a specific location, a consistent time, a trigger that cues the habit. Before the phone, before sleep, before the first meeting, during the first 10 minutes of lunch. Small, intentional doors create sustainable consistency. Not willpower, structure. But even perfect structure fails if you ignore the third principle. And this one almost nobody talks about. Protect your attention. Before you protect your time. Here is the mistake most people make. They think they don't have enough time to pray. But time is not the real problem. You can have 30 free minutes and still feel too mentally crowded to enter prayer. Because distraction doesn't just consume hours, it fragments your capacity for depth. Fragmented attention can't connect to anything deeply, including God. So start retraining your attention before you even open your mouth in prayer. Sit in silence for 2 minutes first. Breathe slowly. Put the phone face down. Turn off the background noise. Because prayer is not just talking, it's learning how to become present again, in a world engineered to keep you everywhere except here. Daniel understood this. His inner world stayed anchored not because Babylon became quieter, it never did, but because he kept choosing stillness before the world chose noise for him. And the fourth habit? It might be the one that saves the most people. Stop trying to pray for an hour. This surprises people, but it's one of the quietest traps in spiritual life. Many believers quietly stop consistent prayer because they've set expectations that shame them into giving up. They can't sustain an hour of deeply emotional, expressive prayer every single morning, so they feel like failures. And eventually, they stop trying. But 5 focused, genuine minutes every single day reshapes the inner world far more than 1 powerful hour every 3 weeks. Because consistency builds identity, and identity creates endurance. You don't need to perform in prayer, you need to show up. Which leads to the final principle, and it's the one I want to sit with longest, because it sounds almost too simple, but it may explain more than anything else why so many people slowly lose depth without ever intending to. Leave your windows open. When Daniel prayed, he opened his windows toward Jerusalem. God didn't need the window open, Daniel did, because those open windows were his visible anchors, his physical daily declaration that God would not become invisible in his life, no matter how loud or demanding Babylon became. And maybe modern people need their own open windows. A Bible left open somewhere you'll see it. A prayer reminder that actually interrupts your scroll. Worship music during your commute instead of noise. A chair you return to every morning. A walk you take without headphones. A person you pray with consistently. Small, visible, physical anchors. Because here's the truth about attention. Whatever consistently holds it eventually shapes you. Not dramatically, not all at once. Slowly, quietly, over thousands of small moments. Babylon didn't destroy people through force, it distracted them gradually. Daniel survived not because he was stronger than Babylon, but because he kept returning, again and again and again, to the one thing Babylon could not give him and could not take. Daniel remained unshaken inside Babylon, not because he escaped pressure, not because the system left him alone, but because prayer kept recentering him before pressure could redefine him. If this opened something in you, subscribe. Because every week on this channel, we go deep into ancient Bible stories and pull out the psychological, spiritual, and practical principles hidden inside them. Principles that are more relevant today than they have ever been. And I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 habits do you think would change your prayer life the most? Leave it in the comments.